Board of Mayor and Aldermen regular meeting for June is called to order. Please stand and we'll have the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'm so glad that we're all back together in this room and we're not doing Zoom. It's good to see all of your smiling faces tonight. We're excited. Before we get started with our agenda, we have a special guest with us that I'm going to call to the podium. He is with TVA, Mr. Lynn Huffsteller. Please come to the podium.
Thank you, Mayor Snyder.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I want to say thank you for Gina for helping me surprise Robert. He had no idea I was coming tonight. I'm here on behalf of TVA to thank Robert for his 30 years of service to public power. I know Robert's well respected at TVA. During my short time here in my job, he's been asked to come to TVA twice to speak some words of wisdom, and he did that exceptionally well. So Robert, congratulations. I wish you the best.
Thank you.
I know Peggy's probably got your list lined up, so if you wanted to stay, you'd probably have to work. You wouldn't have to work as hard if you wanted to stay. So congratulations. This is the Tennessee Valley Authority Award of Appreciation presented to Robert Gardner of Springfield Electric for 30 years of service. Your outstanding contributions and excellent service are deeply appreciated. It's signed by Jeff Wyatt, President, CEO, and Jeanette Mills, Executive Vice President of External Relations. Robert, congratulations. Speak very much.
Robert, we thank you for the 30 years. I know you haven't retired yet, but we're going to be having a reception. I believe it's here in this room shortly for your retirement. We appreciate the 30 years of service that you've given the city of Springfield. I know that you will not be a stranger.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor.
You will continue to be seen in the community doing all of your work, I'm sure, because you're not retiring from the church.
No. I am taking a break.
He will be active with City of Faith, and we will continue to see him out and about. And I'm sure he'll be calling you to volunteer for other things in the community with greater faith. Right?
I'll be taking a break. All summer. Thank you.
I really don't believe that. Just a couple announcements before we get started. Congratulations to Springfield High School. They're having their graduation on Thursday night. You're not invited. They're doing tickets for the COVID virus, but we want to congratulate all the Springfield High School graduates. 1.2, the approval of the minutes for the regular meeting of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen held on May 19th, 2020. Are there any corrections? Any corrections to the minutes? No corrections? Are we voting by here? Okay. We have a motion by Mr. Harris and a second by Mr. Gregg. Ready for a vote? Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 1.3, we have several public hearings tonight. If you would like to speak on the particular topic, please come to the mic. You have 2 minutes to speak. Public hearing number 1, Ordinance 20-06, an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2020's annual budget for the city of Springfield by amending certain general fund operating budgets. If you'd like to speak, please come to the mic. There's no one that would like to speak. The public hearing is closed. Our second public hearing is Ordinance 20-07, an ordinance adopting the annual budget and the tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. If you would like to speak, please come to the mic. No one would like to speak? The public hearing is closed. Public hearing 3, ordinance 20-08, an ordinance rescinding ordinance 19-11 in its entirety and setting a new schedule of rates and charges for the Springville water system. Please come to the mic if you would like to speak. Hello.
Mayor, Councilman, Alder, not sure if the actual term is, congratulations, that's a long time to stay at a job, I'm really. I really,
Can't hear.
really.
Yeah, speak up, we can hear you.
Will you please state your name and where you live?
Sarah Waldron, Ward 5. I'm the Alderman,
We're going to start your time over.
Oh,
Or we're going to pause it for a second. Please state your name again.
That was on plan, so you couldn't tell.
Time's up.
I'm Ward 5, Sarah Waldrop. I live in the beautiful historic district, but not the one you're thinking of, the one over by the jail, the other beautiful one. I've talked to a lot of local citizens, and I just would really like to encourage you. I know that you've probably done a lot of work on this budget. At my house, so my husband and I bought a new house this past September, our first house, go us, and our sewer bill is already just as much as our water bill. Our utilities are a lot. Our equity's been raised on our mortgage. I was laid off in March. We're doing great, thank goodness, because we've made wise financial decisions, but there are a lot of citizens in the city that are struggling. And I know it works out, I've read the numbers in the paper, it only works out to $2 a month. But I tutor for a single mom of 2 kids. And when I talked to her today, she said, I really hope that you are successful because our utilities are already really high. And I just really would like to encourage you, I'm a math person, a numbers person myself. I would just really like to encourage you to try to squeeze that money somewhere else, if at all possible. Because for these people who can't even pay their rent, you know, the water's gonna go up and the sewer's gonna go up and it's not gonna come back down. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? If there's no one else that would like to speak, the public hearing is closed. Public hearing number 4, ordinance 20-09, or ordinance rescinding ordinance 19-12 in its entirety and setting a new schedule of rates and charges for the Springfield wastewater system. If there's someone that'd like to speak, please come to the podium, state your name, and you have 2 minutes. There's no one that would like to speak. Public hearing is closed. Public hearing number 5, ordinance 20-10, an ordinance amending the schedule of fees and charges for play at the Legacy Golf Course by rescinding ordinance 19-14 in its entirety and substituting a new schedule of fees. If you would like to speak, please come to the mic. There's no one that would like to speak. The public hearing is closed. Public hearing number 6, ordinance 20-11, an ordinance amending the fees for the Springfield Community Development Department by rescinding ordinance 88-09 in its entirety and substituting a new schedule of fees. If you would like to speak, please come to the mic. No one that would like to speak? Public hearing is closed. Public hearing number 7, ordinance 20-12. Ordinance amending the City of Springfield zoning ordinance, Chapter 13, Section 11-1305A, 11-1306B, 11-1307C, and Chapter 14, Section 1403.4G, 1 and 2. If you would like to speak, please come to the mic. No one would like to speak. The public hearing is closed. 2.1, Discuss and possible take action on ordinance 20-05 on a third and final reading. Ordinance rezoning a portion of one parcel located in the 9th Civil District on Highway 41 South from Commercial General District to Commercial Service District. Do we hear a motion? We have a motion made by Alderman Hubbard, and do we have a second? We have a second by Vice Mayor Harris. Any discussion? Any questions? Third and final reading. Ready for a vote? Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 2.2, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 20-06 on a second reading. Ordinance amending the fiscal year 2020's annual budget for the city of Springfield by amending certain general fund operating budgets. Do we have a motion and a second? A motion made by Alderman Hubbard, a second made by Alderman Trotter. Any discussion? No discussion? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 2.3, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 20-07 on a second reading. Ordinance adopting the annual budget and the tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. We need a motion and a second, please. Motion made by Alderman Hubbard, seconded by Vice Mayor Harris. Any discussion, questions? Ready for a vote? Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 2.4, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 20-08 on a second reading. Ordinance rescinding ordinance 19-11 in its entirety and setting a new schedule of rates and charges for the Springville water system. Do we have a motion and a second to discuss? Motion made by Alderman Hubbard, seconded by Alderman Arnold. Any questions?
Yeah,
Concerns?
Yeah, one quick question. Sarah was your name, right? She wasn't the only one who came to me in my ward to talk to me about this over the last maybe week and a half, 2 weeks. And it seems like there's a lot of folks in my ward, especially around where Sarah lives, that are without work right now or have had reduced hours, have had financial difficulties. And this is something that is obvious because of COVID. And it's something that we have to kind of look at moving forward, where and when we set changes with the financial constraints that a lot of our residents are seeing. So with that being said, the ordinance 20.08 was what I heard the most, talk about. So I will be voting against that to represent the residents. And I didn't know if any other aldermen had heard the same from their residents as well.
And the concern with this, everyone is questioning this. And this is something we are required by law, and Ms. Holt can speak to this subject, but we're required by law, this is an entity fund, and it all has to come out of that one fund. Unfortunately, you were saying, or I think you were saying, take money from somewhere else. The law will not allow us to do that. It's against the law.
So do we have any?
Ms. Holt?
That's correct. It's an enterprise fund, and it has to be balanced. And so only water customers can pay for the water. You can't take funds from any other fund. And even with the increase, the budget that we have presented has revenue that's less than the current budget. So even with the increase, we're still under, and the expenditures are under. So the water budget is less than what we're at now, even with that increase. It's just water and sewer both, as most people probably know, we are spending a whole lot of money. And the big thing is The $2.8 million that we cannot borrow, we have to pay $2.8 million every year for Logan Todd Water. And that is an extra $2.8 million that we have not had to pay until this coming year. We started in April, but now we've got a full year. And when you're looking at almost $3 million extra that you haven't had to pay before, and you can't borrow it because it's a recurring, it's operating, we're pretty much stuck.
So there's nothing we can do?
We're under the law.
Yeah, we are, like I said, the budget's even less than the current budget, so we have cut a whole lot. But we have to pay for that Logan Todd Water.
But we can't take money out of the general fund.
We cannot.
Right, that I understand.
Yeah.
My question is it something that has to be done right now? Because we are under such an unprecedented situation with so many people out of work. Is it something that we have to raise now, or is it something that can be raised later on?
Unfortunately, we've already, EPA required us in the past 5 years, is that correct? That we've had to spend the money.
Actually, it's been since 2012 on sewer. And, yes, we need to do it effective July 1st to make it a full year for the budget. But we did, and we're not alone. Of course, every city, people are laid off, people are struggling. That's why our revenues are budgeted less in general fund and all of these, because we are anticipating that people aren't able to pay. And we're probably gonna end up having some write-offs. And so people are hurting. And until things get back to whatever that normal will be, we're all gonna be kind of struggling together. So unfortunately, that's something that's just out of our control right now.
I appreciate you explaining that a little bit more. Thank you.
Yeah, because it hurts.
It does.
It hurts my house and it hurts everybody else's house.
It does.
And we need to go back and give a little history on that and make sure everyone understands. We're not just up here raising the rates.
Right.
The law requires us, and I think, we've all learned that.
Also, this was a suggested rate by MTS that we did either last year or year before.
It was in 2018, and they gave us three or 4 years of rates that we would need to have in order to pay for all the debt and for all the projects that were mandatory. So we were pretty much, the fact that they recommended it after doing a year-long study, looking at every expenses, including all personnel, as well as operations and capital and all of our future projects, and that's what they came up with for their rates.
Understood.
And actually, as bad as it sounds, these rate increases are lower than they have been in years past, because a couple years ago, we had 10 and
Yes.
15% rate increases. And so we know we are high, especially on sewer, we are high, we know that. But with that EPA, the administrative order on consent, we were forced pretty much to spend, what, $45, $55 million. And for a smaller system, it hurts. But 21, this upcoming fiscal year, and fiscal year 22, the next one, are the ones where we are at the worst, where it's the financially, where if you look at the reserve, the fund balance, that we've got to use 1.6 million just to balance the budget on wastewater. We've never had to do that before. That hurts. As this plays out, yes, but we have the debt. But it will get better. They say the next 2 years are gonna be the worst, so.
Thank you so much for
As long as nothing else unforeseen comes along.
I appreciate it.
Other, Mr. Hubbard?
Yes, I empathize, ma'am, but I sort of been around a long time, and we should have done this years ago with our water systems and with our sewage system. So it's unfortunate that all of this COVID situation came about. I empathize with you, okay? I'm a fixed income person myself, but I do understand that it's pertinent that we upgrade our whole systems. So we have to kind of suffer together.
Well, we were under federal mandate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not, it wasn't a choice of the city, right?
No. Other Mr. Sneed, you had, I'm sorry.
Miss Sarah, if you can hang around, I'd like to talk to you after the meeting, if you'd like, to explain this a little more, hear what you got to say.
Any other? Yes, sir.
I'm just curious about that order, but I understand
we'll get to that.
It's already in the budget.
Right. We had to use, that's the, one of the, it's on our agenda tonight to apply for that. It's 2.13.
But no, this was 400.
I mean, it's an
Oh,
agenda
oh,
item,
okay.
2.13, that money, the 404,000.
Because I understand it was in, one in the stipulations attached to it now.
There are, we put that money in the budget under the water department because the water, it wouldn't balance without it. And you have to use that money for upgrades, either IT, capital maintenance, which has to be repair or renovation, maintenance and upgrades to existing water and sewer. So we put it into water where we're repairing the Greenbrier pump station, or you can use it for existing roads and bridges, or ADA type projects. So there were categories that we have to apply for, and the budget would not balance without those funds. So, and we know that 404,215 is committed, so we were able to budget that. These others, these grants that we're going for, we could not include those funds in our budget. That is in here, and that's what we're gonna vote on tonight on 213.
Okay. Other questions? No other questions? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the vote.
Motion passes 6-1.
Okay. Thank you. 2.5, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 20-09 on a second reading, or ordinance rescinding ordinance 19-12 in its entirety and setting a new schedule of rates and charges for the Springfield wastewater system. Do we have a motion and a second? Motion made by Alderman Hubbard, seconded by Vice Mayor Harris. Questions, discussion? No questions or discussion? Yes, sir.
Our rates are still lower than comparable cities in the state of Tennessee, so you all need to know that.
Not really for sewer. No, our sewer rates are
That's
high.
sewer, I'm talking about,
This, you're talking about, this is for sewer, you're talking about water.
water. Yeah.
Water's comparable, sewer,
Yes.
we're high, we admit it,
But not that much out of
we're pretty high.
Any discussion, questions? Ready for a vote? Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 2.6, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 20-10 on a second reading. Or ordinance amending the schedule of fees and charges for play at the Legacy Golf Course by rescinding ordinance 19-14 in its entirety and substituting a new schedule of fees. Do we have a motion and a second? Motion made by Vice Mayor Harris, seconded by Alderman Hubbard. Questions, discussion?
discussion, how's the play?
Play's good.
It's been really good,
It's back.
really good.
Golf course looks amazing.
Sunday afternoon, it's back early Monday morning after the travel.
First-hand experience with Alderman. Try.
Have to visit that.
I usually drive through.
Any questions? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 2.7, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 20-11 on a second reading. An ordinance amending the fees for the Springfield Community Development Department by rescinding ordinance 88-09 in its entirety and substituting a new schedule of fees. We have a motion. A motion made by Alderman Hubbard, a second made by Alderman Gregg. Any questions? Been a long time since we updated these.
True.
1988? Is that what we came up with?
We were trying to get the bill with the break there.
Any questions? Discussion? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 2.8, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 20-12 on a second reading. An ordinance amending the City of Springfield zoning ordinance, Chapter 13, Section 11-1305A, 11-1306B, 11-1307C, and Chapter 14, Section 1403, 4G, 1 and 2. Do we have a motion and a second? Motion made by Alderman Hubbard, second by Alderman Trotter. Discussion. I think when I read that section 1403, I didn't put the .4. Sorry, I had an error. That was a lot to read. Any discussion? No discussion? No discussion, we're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 2.9, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 20-13 on a first reading. An ordinance to adjust the security light rental rates of the Springfield Electric Department. Do we have a motion and a second? Motion made by Alderman Hubbard, second made by Vice Mayor Harris. Ms. Brickles, will you please read this?
Ordinance 20-13, an ordinance to adjust the security light rental rates of the Springfield Electric Department. Whereas the Springfield Electric Department now offers LED security light rental as a service to its customers, and whereas the security light rental service must now be updated to reflect the fixture cost and the energy usage of the LED lights, and whereas such a service should be expected to be self-supporting with sufficient revenue generated from the rental rates to recover all related costs, including material and labor, and whereas as material and labor costs rise, rates must be adjusted accordingly to continue to provide this service at no cost to the other electric ratepayers. Now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of the City of Springfield, Tennessee, that ordinance 20-13 is hereby adopted as follows. The security light rental rates are hereby adjusted in accordance with the security light rental rate schedule in Exhibit A attached. These rates shall become effective upon its final passage of this ordinance. All ordinances in conflict herewith are hereby rescinded to the extent of the conflict only.
Thank you. I'm sure you have questions and discussions for Mr. Gardner. Any questions? This might be the last time he's in the mic.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
This is an adjustment that's long overdue. The last adjustment for our security light rates was 2009, and before then was 1996. But this adjustment is not as severe as it could have been if we were keeping the old fixtures. But since we're converting all of our security lights and street lights to LED, then it's had a much softer impact on the change, because the fixtures themselves actually cost a little more, but they use so much less energy, and that figures in the calculation too. So, and we actually eliminated a lot of lights. We only basically have 5 lights out there, and of the 5 that you see on the light chart, only 3 of these are actually used or asked for today on a regular basis. And so most common light is the type B. That's a standard backyard light, outdoor security light. We call it a caretaker. And it's going up marginally, but basically a little more than $1.20 after 11 years. But we also have a lot of the type N, which are the equivalent of the 1,000-watt floods. Those are the big flood lights you see in Electrolux and a lot of our parking lots, larger parking lots. And the reason you see those actually going down is because the type M and N, which the M is equivalent to a 400-watt flood, those are now the same fixture. It's just adjusted whether you want 400 watts or 1,000 watts, you adjust that inside the fixture, but it's the same fixture. So that actually caused a decrease in that, in those 2 lights. So any questions?
Questions? We're gonna let him off the hook.
Good job.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
2.10, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 20-14 on the first reading. An ordinance rezoning the corner of Ruth Street and Golf Club Lane from R10 to MRO. Do we have a motion and a second? Motion made by Alderman Hubbard. And do we have a second? Second made by Alderman Gregg. Will you please read this?
Ordinance 20-14, an ordinance rezoning one parcel located in the 9th Civil District on Golf Club Lane and Ruth Street from R10 Medium Density Residential District to MRO Multiple Residential and Office District. Whereas an application for rezoning was presented to the Springfield Planning Commission by Brenda Haynes, owner, and Jacob Fan, owner's authorized agent, requesting one parcel, tax map 91F, Group A, parcel 10, approximately .96 acres, located on the corner of Ruth Street and Golf Club Lane, be rezoned from R10 Medium Density Residential District to Multiple Residential and Office District. Whereas the Springfield Planning Commission has reviewed the application and voted with a favorable recommendation for this parcel to be rezoned. Now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of Springfield, Tennessee as follows. One parcel totaling approximately .96 acres owned by Brenda Haynes, located on the corner of Ruth Street and Golf Club Lane, tax map 91F, Group A, parcel 10 of the tax maps of Robertson County, Tennessee, and being more fully described by Exhibit A attached, is hereby rezoned from R10 Medium Density Residential District to Multiple Residential and Office District. This zoning shall become effective following its third and final passage as required by law.
Thank you. Discussion, questions? Yes, sir.
Mr. Brewer.
Yes, Mr. Harris.
Any proposal for this piece of property, what they're wanting to do, or?
Yes, Mr. Harris, a quick history. Back in 1997, our zoning ordinance allowed in our R districts that were not single-family only districts to have actual multi-residential density. And at that time, the owners, Mr. Haynes and his partner, Mr. Batson, presented a site plan to the Planning Commission that was approved for 6 condominium units. Since that time, they had actually put in the infrastructure, but they never moved forward with the project. So now Mr. Fan is wanting to buy this and get it rezoned to MRO. They would like to do 9 units, and they want to do detached condominiums, which are exactly, well, not exactly, but similar to what they're doing in Village Greens right now. So they won't be 0 lot lines, they'll be like individual little houses, and they're going to do 9 of those. And it would be a nice transition from that commercial zoning where Mr. Moore's townhouses are into home ownership right into that area.
But they're not proposing townhouses.
They're proposing 2 stories. I do not believe that they will be townhouses. They may have the name townhouse. That seems to be a popular name for banking purposes, but we can talk with Jacob and see what it's going to look like.
Other questions while he's at the mic? No other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 6-1.
Thank you. 2.11. Discuss and possible take action on Resolution 20-22, a resolution declaring property surplus and authorizing the disposal of such properties. Do we have a motion and a second? Motion made by Alderman Trotter, a second made by Alderman Hubbard. Questions? No questions? Call the roll, please. Old habits. They die hard. Mr. Sneed? Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 2.12, discuss and possible take action on Resolution 20-23, Public Works and Economic Adjustment Assistance Program funding. Do we have a motion and a second? Motion made by Alderman Hubbard, second made by Vice Mayor Harris. Questions for Ms. Holt? Ms. Holt, you want to speak first?
Yes. Okay, this is a grant that we just found out about a couple weeks ago, so it's not budgeted, but it would have been budgeted next year. So it's for sludge treatment process at the wastewater plant. So here we go, more money. It's an expensive upgrade, but what we're asking for is 2.6 million. Remember, we're going to have to do this anyway. So remember too, it's not budgeted, but it's 2.6 million we're asking for. And the match is 652,000 for the grant. But you will notice on the attachment for the budget that some of the items are not eligible for the grant. So the preliminary engineering report and the engineering design and the inspection, those would be paid separately. So we would actually be committing to, if we get the grant, of course, we don't have to do anything until we get the grant. We won't know that probably till fall. But our total would be 900 and something. 900, well, it's 900 something, just under $1 million. But, so this resolution is to approve us applying for 2.6 million for the wastewater treatment plant improvements.
Okay. Questions? Sure hope we get it.
It would be very beneficial.
It would.
Since we have to do it anyway.
Okay. No discussion? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 2.13, discuss and possible take action on Resolution 20-24, a resolution in support of an application for the Governor's Local Government Support Grant. Do I have a motion and a second? Motion made by Vice Mayor Harris, a second made by Alderman Arnold. Any discussion?
Ms. Mayor,
Yes.
what's the plans, what are the planned use of this revenue if it's received?
Okay, this is the one that we are guaranteed. This is what I was talking about earlier that Mr. Trotter had asked about. It is $404,215. And there were several categories that were eligible, and it couldn't be new things. It had to be repairs, replacements, upgrades. And so since we could not balance the water budget without including these funds, we included it on this project, which had to be done anyway. And it's building a new pump station for Greenbrier, and Mr. Beers can give you the details on this. It's for a new one, but it's a replacement because the one that we have now is, I forgot how old it is, but, so we are, this was a very, it's a use that was, it fit the definition exactly, so that's why we thought, let's go ahead, since we have to do it anyway. So it is the Greenbrier pump station.
Any other questions, Mr. Hubbard?
Mr. Beers, we'd like to elaborate on historically, because I think the Greenbrier pump is almost 20 years old.
83.
Well, actually, the pump
It's older
was,
than that.
It's more than that.
actually was built in 1983, that it was actually constructed. So it's been quite a while. That station right now supplies the city of Greenbrier, and it's a duplex station. It operates probably one pump almost 20 hours a day, and then a second one for about 10 hours of that. And when you have that as time to do a new station, we call this as a replacement or an upgrade. That's how we were able to put that money toward there as far as that. But it's in dire need of being done away with. It's located there right at the entrance of Stonegate. So it's been needed to be done for quite a while.
I might add that this was also one of the recommendations when we had the hydraulic
Yes.
study a
Correct.
couple of years ago. They recommended this.
Kind of, the timing was right, so it actually worked out very well.
May I tell the general public how much water we sell?
We're allotted, what, 20 million, I think, a month, that's the maximum that they can get. That's what the current contract is, at 20 million a month. So sometimes they approach that very close, but currently that's what the,
We'll sell more.
Okay,
Any other questions while he's at the mic?
Thank you, sir.
no problem, thank you.
But in determining that you want to place this money in the wastewater for this to be done, I mean, were all departments looked at, or?
Well, we had to fit the definitions, and again, to balance the budget, the water department was going to be using reserves of $200,000 to $300,000 if we did not just turn that around to where there's a surplus now of $200,000. So it helped balance that budget. The general fund, we were going to use reserves anyway, and it was just the best place that fit the definitions as far as water and wastewater upgrades. Yes.
The money that the county gets, do they contribute into the city of Springfield?
No, they get a lot more money
Oh, yeah, they get
than we do.
$1,300,000.
And I think they have the same categories though, as far as, the IT hardware upgrades or capital maintenance, which they can do on some of their buildings.
Well,
Some road projects, existing roads and bridges.
maybe I
that they do.
misunderstood, but I thought all those stipulations had been lifted. Maybe I misunderstood.
Like upgrading the school, middle school, maybe?
For what now?
You said the county can use the money.
No, I said, I'm not sure if they have I would think they would have the same,
No.
categories, and I'm not sure how they're going to use their money. They're getting more than we are.
But any entity that they have, they can use it on upgrade.
It says upgrading existing roads and bridges.
Oh,
Existing, so it's not for anything new. The whole point of this is to help cities that are struggling like us with the projects that they need and yet can't pay for.
Well, and I will say that we are receiving emails constantly, whether it's on the federal level or the state level, for grants. And we are very appreciative of Congressman Rose's office for sending those out. And the governor's office has worked very closely with Ms. Holt, Mr. Martin, Ms. Crockett, and we appreciate everything they've done during this time for us.
That's why we're going after money everywhere we can find it. And there's more money out there than we'll be bringing to you as far as grants that we'll apply for. But these two tonight are biggies. And most of them, you have to have a resolution from the government, the governing body anyway.
They're very specific when they send the emails out about which each of these grants go for and how you have to spend them. There's lots of stipulations. Other questions? Okay. Are we ready for a vote? Any more discussion? We're ready to vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 2.14, discuss and possibly take action on Resolution 20-25, a resolution accepting a bond for the right-of-way infrastructure and the maintenance for Ottowood Estates, Section 1 and 2. Do we have a motion and a second? Motion made by Alderman Hubbard. And do we have a second? Second made by Alderman Gregg. Any questions on accepting this bond? No questions? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 3.1, discuss and possible take action on the adjustments of the retail electric rates of the Springfield Electric Department due to a wholesale fuel adjustment by the Tennessee Valley Authority. Do we have a motion and a second to discuss? Motion made by Alderman Hubbard. And do we have a second? Second made by Vice Mayor Harris. Mr. Gardner.
We have a slight increase of 0.8% this month, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
We do this each month about these rates, wholesale rates, and then what do you call the other rate, Robert? You got the wholesale fuel costs, you got fuel costs.
Fuel costs.
Good, so there's two, wholesale and the fuel costs. Is there a way to, so that, we can get a bigger picture of where the rates and things are going with this? not just have it go up and down in a sense, but have like a chart where we can see a graph and have it charted at the tablet, so we can chart it on a graph and see where it's going and look at it over a period of time. Is that something?
Yeah,
that you have?
they do provide a forecast for the fuel cost adjustment for the next projected 12 months. It's not, my experience, it's not that reliable past 6 months or so.
Right.
But there is they do forecast the fuel cost adjustment. As far as the base rate adjustment, if you remember, every October, probably for the past 10 years, I've been bringing you a base rate adjustment, a pass-through from TBA. Well, the new CEO said he's not going to do that. He's suspending that. So there's not one this year, and there wasn't one last year, and there won't be any one since we signed that 20-year agreement. That was part of the deal, that he would waive that. So all you're going to see, from what we can tell right now, all you're going to see for the next near future is the fuel cost adjustment.
Well, I mean, for my, I guess you're missing the question. What I'm saying is there a way to have a chart attached to this, which we see every month, that shows over a period of time, start recording and see it going up and down from month to month, and have years to have it broke down where you can see it's actually going up, see how it curves and how it goes down. It just gives me a better perspective, because like the lady back there was asking today, that means more than just, hey, it went up this much this month. You can see where we were and where we are now.
The
We can see
cumulative
chart.
effect of
That's
the
right.
entire rate, yeah, we can do that. I'll leave that for my successor.
Any other questions? This is his last meeting, so we're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
3.2, discuss and possible take action on the adjustments of the monthly gas rates of the Springfield Gas Department. Do we have a motion and a second? Motion made, Alderman Hubbard. Do we have a second? Second made by Vice Mayor Harris. Mr. Riddle.
The purchase gas adjustment's up 3.88% this month.
Okay. Any questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
What I discussed with Mr. Gardner would also extend to the other utility departments. If y'all could, like, just for reference, have some kind of graph chart attached to the agenda where we can start charting this over time from month to month, and we can look at it over a period of years. Instead of just knowing it's up this month and down that month, we can see where it's actually going from a period of time in the past to where we are now.
Right. I can get you what all this natural gas is bought and traded through NYMEX. The NYMEX stock market price. So it's trading, the prices are changing constantly, but I use a graph that shows what they're projecting, but that, I mean,
most computers already have that kind of, you buy it generic out of the box, they'll have the software where you can do graphs in Excel or something and just put that spot on there and attach that sheet and just start attaching that. You can start charting stuff, and it's just a graph that we can look at and stuff. Hey, it's up this month.
Ms. Arnold.
I'm assuming that you mean in the past, right? What you're asking is for past, but what we're
Well,
discussing
I mean,
is
it would
projection.
take some work to go back and get some history to
Well, at
it,
least the
but
last
from at least going forward, I mean, I've been here for 20 years, I know where, but if you have, if we had that each month, and when we get a call from a constituent, they want to say something about, well, here, I can email you,
Right,
I can email this history.
Okay. Any other questions? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 3.3, discuss and possible take action to approve change order number 4 to the Morris Wall Construction Company, contracted for the Electrolux Access Road Natural Gas Relocation Project for a reduction of $11,667.04. The new contract amount will be $511,619.01. Do I hear a motion and a second? A motion made by Alderman Hubbard and a second by Alderman Trotter. Any questions? This is a reduction. We like reductions. No discussion? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 3.4, discuss and possible take action to approve an amendment to Task Order 17 from Gresham Smith for the Cultural Resource Survey. This is no charge in the contract amount. Oh, there's no change. Let me read this correctly. There is no change in the contract amount. Do we have a motion and a second to discuss? Motion made by Alderman Hubbard. A second by Alderman Craig. Any questions? No questions? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 3.5, discuss and possible take action on the reappointment of Gary Dillahay as the city judge for a 2-year term ending June 30th, 2022, and Charlotte Fleming as the interim city judge for the 2-year term. Do we hear a motion and a second? Motion made by Alderman Gregg, a second made by Vice Mayor Harris. Mr. Dillahay is here tonight if you have any questions. He is conducting his court here in this room, and they're starting back up.
This month. You have court this month?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Twice.
We've started in-person court again June 1st. And we're at a 10-person limit, not counting the judge and the support staff. But the Supreme Court has recently upped that limit to 50% of the capacity of the room as long as you maintain the social distancing. So yeah, we're back in court this month.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for the good job you're doing.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Ready? Ready for a vote? Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay. 3.6, discuss and possible take action on expiring board appointments for the Logan Todd Regional Water Commission, the Beer Board, the Historical Preservation Commission, and the Library Board. Motion made by Alderman Hubbard to discuss, and a second by Alderman Gregg. Ms. Holt?
I was just going to say, as far as I know, everyone on the list has agreed to another term with the exception for the library board. And the library board would like Harold Skip Barbie to be the appointment.
Okay.
Instead of Karen Shoemaker.
I was going to say that Mr. Husky had covered.
Okay.
Ms. Shoemaker wanted to come on.
Wanted to come on, yes.
Oh,
No, she was not kicked off. She wanted to come on.
She's been on there for quite some time. Yes. Okay.
so you what,
Yeah.
okay.
Any questions? No questions, we're ready for vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. We're ready for our consent, 4.1. The Finance Department requested an approval to purchase two 2020 Nissan Frontier pickups in the amount of $42,606. This is under the, utilizing Sourcewell, the contract 2020-200716 NAF from Allen J. Fleet Sales. And it was in the budget for $42,606. We have a motion made by Alderman Hubbard. Do we have a second? Second by Alderman Gregg. Are there any discussion? Questions? No discussion, we're ready for a vote.
passes 7-0.
I would like to, before I ask Ms. Holt to speak, I'd like to remind you to be back in this room at noon on Thursday for our third and final reading of our budget. Ms. Holt, our city manager.
So I can cross that off my list. Another thing, just wanted to thank Robert for 30 years of good work with the electric department. You're going to be missed, and you're really going to be missed. We're having a hard time finding your replacement. but the reception for Robert is the 29th, which is a Monday here in this room, from 4 to 6 o'clock, and the public's invited, and they're handling it all according to CDC regulations. So the food will be handed out. They're doing it the right way to accommodate. And then one other thing, and Mr. Clayton Moore can update, but I believe that Highway 49 state is going to start working on that through town beginning next week, right?
Yes, ma'am, it's gonna start with the sidewalk adjustments by next month, early next month, we should see some asphalt.
Okay, so they're gonna be billing it. So everyone will be inconvenienced for a little while, but hopefully it'll be worth it.
Patience, please.
That's important.
Batson is still on track.
It's still in there.
All right.
The bulldozers next month?
When the actual construction starts.
The exact date on that, I'll have to give you the exact date, but I can't remember the exact date.
Close.
It is close.
It is. Nobody's slacking on that job. It's coming.
Mayor,
Sir.
one other thing, I mean, is the public sees tonight, we have a hefty budget. And a lot of areas, all our entities have to be self-sufficient. There's always something to do within the city, and we don't ever want to leave any money laying on the table that we're able to get. So it's very important for our city residents to complete the 2020 census.
Oh, thank you.
We have, my understanding roughly, it's $1,200 per person.
Correct.
I know that we
Right.
get the whole amount of money, but anyway, it's federal money,
Yes.
and probably not going to be able to reduce any water or sewer rates with that. We can take that money and do many other things within the city. So if you haven't completed the 2020 census, it is important to do so.
Thank you for pointing that out, because it is extremely important that we encourage all of our friends, our family that live next door to us, and talk to 5 of your neighbors, please. Okay? Sir.
Citizens, COVID-19 is no joke. Masking and distancing. And we're not being too obedient this time, okay?
All right.
It does not discriminate.
Our meeting is adjourned.